Today we're coming to you with a really info jam-packed IGTV. Make sure you definitely save this post for later and even grab a pen and paper as well to write down these tips, because we are going to cover off a few things. But we just wanted to talk about how you can sort of use your online assets and your presence in digital marketing to actually give better customer service. So how can you make things as easy as possible for your customers? And you know what, some of the things we talked about today are probably going to seem obvious, but we can't tell you the number of times we see businesses doing them. And these are also just things that we experience, you know, as customers of other businesses as well. Yeah. So we're just going to give you our feedback on some of, I guess, our sort of like pet peeves, but also tips on how you can actually improve what you're doing. You know, some things businesses are doing really well, and how you can, give your customers an amazing experience online. So save this post, grab that pen and paper. We'll be right back, and we're going to dive straight into the tips.
Enjoy.
See you soon. Okay, so very first tip is have your correct opening hours listed everywhere and make it really clear. So last weekend we were actually out and about and tried to go to a car dealership that Google My Business said opened at 7 a.m. And eventually, we were walking around, we waited, luckily we had nowhere to be, so we just stuck around until probably about 8:30 or so. The staff were like, "Why were you here so early?" And we were like, "That's when Google says your business opens." And they're like, "No, that's the service department." But we totally thought they opened at 7 a.m, so that's why we were there. So make sure those opening hours are really, really clear. So you can make sure you have those on in your Instagram bio if possible. Or another great way we see some businesses, and we have our clients do it, is have it saved as a story highlight as well. Just have our opening hours and have a list of it there. You can also easily have it on your Facebook page. There's a section dedicated for it, and on your Google My Business listing as well, so that when people discover you through Google Maps or through a search, it's all there. Now, the other key thing with that is not just having up your opening hours, but make it really clear to people if those are changing for public holidays. And most people will assume that your opening hours might change, but just make it really clear what's going on. So if you have your Google My Business listing set up, they'll usually email you and actually prompt you hey, there's a public holiday coming, do you need to update your hours? And it will specifically update your hours just for that relevant day. You also will just keep in mind to mention that on social media as well. So it's not quite a smooth a process, but something you can do is, again, put up a story highlight with your special hours, especially around the Christmas period or Easter, things like that. And another great idea is just put up a post a few days before the holiday and just let people know when you will be open. Because, if I'm looking for a cafe or something to go to, I'm going to go on your page and I'm going to be well, have they said what their hours are? Because if I'm not sure, I'll just go somewhere else where they have given me that information.
Exactly. That's the quickest way to lose business.
Yes.
When someone goes to Google a cafe and they can't work out if it's open, they're going to choose a different one that has their hours available, because nobody can be bothered driving somewhere if they don't know if it's open anymore, unfortunately.
It's so disappointing and heartbreaking. So don't let that happen. Amazing. So that's our first tip.
So our next tip is having all of your information that customers might want to know about you really easily available on your website or socials. So for example, this might be your returns policy, your privacy policy, or your FAQ section. So your FAQ section is really important, because this is something that your potential customers can access when you're not available. So you've got multiple areas that you can actually make this available. So for example, you can have an FAQ section on your website, which is super handy. And you can also have this available in your Facebook. There's actually a little section where you can pre-filter in these questions and have an automatic Facebook bot answer them for you, which then leads to a further conversation, which you can then jump in and answer those yourself. And the reason why this is so important is because it really gives your customers those added touch points. If they want to ask a really sort of basic question, but they don't want to bother you, maybe they feel like they're not quite ready to convert into being a customer yet, but they just want to know a little bit more information. These things can be really important and really fantastic to sort of answer those questions that people might be a little bit, shy to ask. So that's really helpful.
Okay, so the next thing we wanted to talk about was just having a really clear communication process, and that goes for before, during, and after the sale or the booking, okay? So number one, making sure you're across every single touch point where customers are able or invited to contact you. So we can't tell you how many times we've heard about someone being like really off a particular brand because they sent them a Facebook message to their page, or they sent an Instagram DM and they just never got a response. And we know firsthand, like, it can get overwhelming, but in today's environment, like, you really just have to be on top of that stuff. Like, even if it means hiring someone just to look after those inquiries, or a VA to help you out or something like that, it's just so important to keep on top of them, because you can just leave money on the table by leaving people sitting in your inbox. So just making sure you're getting back to everyone on those different touch points. And I know social media messages are definitely something that can get missed. So just being really on top of that. The other thing is during that process. So when someone orders something from your online store, you know, you probably have confirmation shipping email set up already, but just going through those and making sure that they're amazing, make sure they give as much information as possible. They keep people excited about their order as well, and just so that people aren't left hanging and they're just being kept up to date through the whole process is really important. And then for service-based businesses as well, something we've sort of implemented more recently is just making sure that we have an auto response going out to anyone that inquires with us, just so they know what the next steps are. Like, yep, this is when your discovery call will be, this is what's going to happen, just so they're across, they're not left hanging and it's like, okay, cool, your inquiry sent off, well, what next? Like, when's someone going to contact me, what's going to happen, and so on. So just make sure you have a sort of auto reply set up. That way you know they're being looked after. So even if you're asleep or you're in a meeting or you're wherever, that person knows what's happening and they've got a response from you, and you don't have to stress about it. And then if you remember that FAQ page that we mentioned earlier, also in this auto reply, that's a really good place to actually link that page, because that way, especially if you know you can't always respond to every inquiry instantly, and who can really, let's be honest, you know that if your lead does have some burning questions, like, they're able to find answers to those straight away while they're waiting for you. So that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So our next one is sharing your menu or services list. So this can be done really easily on your website, or it can even be done with Facebook as well. There's little added tabs that you can put in there that let people access your menu or services list quite easily. So the reason you want to do this is that because people can actually get a gauge of what to expect from working with you or visiting you. And let's be real, nobody wants to go to a cafe without looking at the menu first, especially if you've got dietary requirements.
Yes,
and for people like us, we're like quite basic with our food. So we want to make sure there's actually something on there, like we'll eat toasty.
Yeah. Something with
carbs that we'll actually eat. So, that's a huge requirement for a lot of businesses. And if you're a service-based business, and I know a lot of people struggle with this about putting the pricing on their website.
Yeah.
So that's totally up to you if you want to put your pricing on there or not. There's so many different strategies with that. Look, we put our pricing on our website. And the reason we do this is because we like to give people an expectation as to what the pricing is going to be up front.
Yeah.
Because then there's no miscommunication, there's no misunderstanding when they actually choose to work with us, and they have that understanding, they know what to expect. But that's completely up to you. So leave that up to you with that choice. But yeah, it just helps you sort of refine the leads that you're getting to your website and to your business if they know what to expect from you.
Just makes them so much more relevant and saves wasting your time.
Yeah, and that was something that we found particularly with us as well. When we put our prices on our website, we started to get a lot more qualified leads who are actually within our price range, and that might be something you experience yourself as well.
All right, so the next thing I wanted to cover, and again, this is going to sound like a no-brainer, but I can't tell you the number of times, like even just as a customer, I encounter issues with this. If someone is trying to book with you or shop from you or spend their money with you, make it as easy for them to do that as possible, okay? If it's not easy, they will give up, most likely, especially if you have a lot of competition. So a few main ones we can mention, okay, like if you are in hospitality, just have a really amazing reservation system that's really, really easy to use. If you only give people the option of like calling to book a table or something like that, and you know, maybe that's a strategy for you, but if people are out and about or they think about needing to do something at night and you're not open, like just give them an option that they can do that on the spot. Otherwise you are missing out on bookings, okay? So just have a really good booking system in place that people can use. If you're in e-commerce, again, you're probably across this, but really just take a close look at your checkout and make sure it's as painless and easy as possible. So that could be things like making sure that you show people as much as possible what the shipping costs are going to be upfront before they get all the way to the end of the checkout. Like just make sure that information is there. They may not even have a problem with paying shipping, but if they feel like it's sort of been hidden from them throughout the process, they may then feel uncomfortable to make that final step and confirm their order. So just try to be upfront with information, and also shipping times. Like it's really frustrating if you go to order something and then you're like, well, I can't actually tell when I'm going to get it. And that info might be hidden on your site somewhere, but just make it really clear and really obvious, because I can tell you most people won't go and look for it. So just having the checkout process so it's really clear. And also things like if you can have a system that saves customers even payment details as well, so they don't have to re-enter them every time. Very dangerous for us as shoppers, but very good for you as a business. Just again, make it easy for people, especially if they're on their phone. Like so many people are shopping on their phone these days, so you're just going to make it really easy. And make sure your site works on mobile. That is another tip I would add in as well. That is absolutely essential, because people always sort of underestimate just how many people are using their site from a phone.
And Google a lot of the time blocks websites that don't actually work on mobile now as well.
So you just aren't going to come up in search results. So particularly, you know, if there's someone else ranking for the same term that has a better website, they're going to beat you in rankings. So that is a really good tip. And the final one too, like for service-based businesses like us, again, just make that booking process or that inquiry process as easy as you can. So recently, and we don't know why we didn't do this earlier, but we just recently set up a booking system through Dubsado. So now for anyone that wants to inquire with us, they just come on and they instantly book in a time in our calendar to have that initial sort of chat with us to see if we're right for them and to go from there. Whereas before we had an inquiry form, but we'd find we'd get a lot of leads that sort of weren't relevant. And it also meant we had to go back and forth with that customer to find a time when we could chat with them or meet with them. So that has just made it so much easier for both parties. But just for your customer as well, it's much less frustrating from them if they just know straight away when their appointment's going to be. There's no back and forth, and it's just easy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So our final step is to make sure it's easy for people to find your business. So there's a number of ways you can do this. Through Facebook, you can actually add the address in, as well as parking information, which is brilliant, especially for cafes that are in tricky to locate spots. You can actually add, a street address where they can park. For Instagram, you can add a map feature so that they can click on the directions button and it will take them to either Google Map or Apple, whatever it is that they're using. And then there's also your Google My Business Google Maps. So that will also use the feature that will automatically take them to your Google My Business listing. And in that case, you want to make sure that it's really up to date and relevant. So if you can add photos of your business, so what we would suggest is really nice, clear, obvious pictures at the front of the business so that they can recognize the business as soon as they turn up, because there's nothing worse than wandering around aimlessly on the street, which I do all the time because I'm hopeless and I'm always like, Katie, where am I? She has to go searching the streets to find me because there aren't relevant photos on the Google My Business listing, and I can't for the life of me work out what the business looks like. So having accurate sort of street photos and directions so that all they have to do is click the button and it takes them directly to the front door of the business is the best way to optimize that. And you can also add a map on your business contact page. So that's another way you can do it as well. And then that way, if they're looking to specifically find someone who might be local to them, or someone who, for example, they might be looking to work with an Australian business, but it's not particularly clear from your messaging or your website, they can go to their contact page and find that information there. So it's another place you can update that as well.
Yeah, great tip.
Okay, so those are all of our top tips, and we hope you found them really helpful. So if you need any more help, please feel free to send us a DM and we can work through with you how we can help you with any of those tips, whether it's set them up for you or give you a little digital health check to audit your account and see where you can fill in some of the gaps that you're currently missing in your customer service journey. Thanks.